Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mama Wears Athleisure. I am your host, Mariela de Santiago, a first-time mom. We focus on all things mom with tips to help make life easier and more organized for all you mamas out there. Hey, welcome, everyone. Today, we're here with Adriana. Adriana is a working mom and also a stay-at-home mom and a small business owner. So 3 in 1.
Hi. I am, like you said, previous educator, and then I went to work from home. I still work in a school setting, but it's like an online charter, which is really nice because I get to work from home. And before I left the classroom to work for the online charter, I started a small business. It was kind of like mid-pandemic project. And once I started working from home, I also became pregnant, and then I ended up with 3 jobs. So now I get to work from home, run my small business, and also care for the baby. Yeah. So it was kind of just all fell into place. I didn't necessarily go out seeking to have this much responsibility all the time, but I think who I am as a person is that I like to stay busy and I like to just constantly be doing things. Um, my fiance says that I'm like task manager. That's like my title, my role is that I constantly like to be doing tasks. So 3 jobs is pretty suitable for who I am as a person.
Oh my gosh. So I follow you and I see you posting, um, you're working from home, but then you've got your baby in the background and she is 9 months, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then in the evenings, you're posting about your small business. I'm like, oh my gosh. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
lucky if I can wash my face by noon and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, at least I brushed my teeth. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's
how do you
a
do
little
it?
bit crazy. I mean, it is a little bit crazy. There are some days that I feel like just really overwhelmed where I'm like, why do I not know how to slow down? And then other days when I get things accomplished and I'm like, yes, I was made to do this. I was made to be the multitasking person that, completes everything and feels so accomplished. But I think the biggest part of all of it is just that I have such a strong support system. So, like, working from home, I do have a job that requires me to be like on screen in Zoom calls and meetings 2 days a week. My schedule's kind of flexible, so I get to schedule that myself and figure out what days. So I've blocked out 2 days that are concentrated with just Zoom meetings back to back to back, like all day long. And then I do a lot of the back end paperwork. But the days that I have meetings, I typically will have my mother in law here. She's like partially retired, and she's just like a huge, huge help, just like a second mom basically. So having her around helps a lot, and being able to like know that the baby can be with somebody trusted, and I can focus on my work. And the schedule will be followed, and it will be respected. Our wishes as parents and what we want for her. But a lot of that, a lot of like having the support, a lot of lists, a lot of like Alexa, please write down this on the grocery list. That's probably the biggest support that I don't know how well I would function without the technology support. Oh, Alexa's listening to me.
Did she
But
just
yeah,
pop up?
yeah, she did. But I mean, I think that's a big part of it also is like there are so many parts of my day that I just do and don't really think about, like, writing down groceries or knowing what, dog food is needed or trash bags or, reminding myself to go to the dry cleaners. Just little things like that that I have to keep in mind constantly. But I'm such a list person. Like, I love to write things down and I like to track things like that. And that's truly how I get things done. I'm a calendar person, so I'll calendar everything, like what days bills are due or what days, certain activities are happening. Um, Currently I have it so that like my Wednesdays are filled with activities. Like, it's the day we take her to swim. It's the day, like I get up in the morning, go work out, come home, do some work, take her to swim at lunch, and then come home. So it's just super regimented. I think more than anything is like the organization, the lists, all of that is kind of what helps, but also kind of what makes you feel crazy.
I love
you know?
lists. I
Yeah.
put everything down and I think I just get that satisfaction of being able to check
Yeah.
it off. Like, even if it's as simple as do load of towels. And I know it
Yeah.
sounds silly, but I'm like, yes, I
Uh-huh.
accomplished something.
Yeah. You know what? And I think like as that A type personality, it's like it's a pro, but it also can be a con at times because I know my fiance's been like, do you realize that you give yourself anxiety and you make yourself crazy by all these like unset expectations you set for yourself? But it's such a double-edged sword because if I don't, then I feel so much anxiety about things that need to get done. And if I
Yeah.
do, then I have so much anxiety about things that need to get done. It's just the reality of being a mom, you know? You're like,
Yeah.
either
And
I
it's
have it
just,
written down and I know, or I don't and I'm stressed out, you know?
and it's also just like a way to just keep track of not forgetting things because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have it written down and then you forget like
Mm-hmm.
packing or
Mm-hmm.
just little things, like even when it comes to packing up for trips, I have to
Yep.
write everything down. And
Mm-hmm.
I start like a week in advance because I hate packing, but I love
Yeah.
traveling.
Yeah.
Not as
Yeah.
much anymore now with the
Yeah.
little one.
I know. We've only done a couple of travel trips and like traveling itself, it's at the first time we left, I was like, this is so fun. I'm so excited. I got my list out because also similarly have a list for packing. I got it out, and by the time I had everything put together, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so much work. Like just
They need
packing
so
to leave.
much. Yes. And kids need so much.
I know. And that's one thing that I feel like before I had Mila, I feel like I had so many people tell me babies don't need a lot. They just need a bed and they just need love, which I don't disagree with. But I also feel like, no, in order to make our life smooth and like for me to not feel like a crazy person, she also needs toys to play with. She also needs pacifiers. She also needs, a diaper. She also needs a variety of like types of sleepers to sleep in so she's not cold. She can't just sleep, she's used to like her routine. And although babies could make it and they could be resilient, part of me feels like it's my responsibility as mom to make sure that she's comfortable and like, she has the basic necessities beyond a clean diaper.
Well, and it's also
So
easier for you. Like
yeah,
mentally, if they're content and
exactly.
happy, then you know that
Yeah.
things are going to be a lot smoother for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the one thing that I remember people telling me, like, babies don't need a lot, don't worry about it. And now I'm like, no, babies actually do need quite a bit. And not like in the consumer sense of they need every single thing, but more of the like, no, there are so many tools in place right now that we have access to that if we have them, why not use them? Like it's helpful for us in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And actually, that brings
So,
me to my next question. So, on the days that you are working and that you don't have that
hmm
help, what do you do? How do you keep her occupied? How are you able to like multitask?
I would say probably functioning at like 60% of my actual multitasking capacity and giving myself enough grace to know that that's enough. I think that, like, personality wise, there are a lot of moms who feel like if you're not giving 100%, you're not giving enough. But the reality is that I think I've come to a place of like, if I give 60% of myself and my ability to multitask, I'm still doing more than nothing at all. So when it comes time to like sit down and get stuff done, one, we really do work on a schedule. So like I try to get her up at a certain time. I use that app Huckleberry, which is really, really helpful because it dictates her like or predicts, excuse me, her nap time, which is really nice. So like I'll log when she goes to sleep, log when she wakes up, and then it tells you like based on your sleep windows, she will be up at such and such time. And something as simple as that takes the thought process of how many hours until she goes to sleep. Like it sounds silly, but I don't need to like, what time does she wake up? What time does she go to bed? I just log it. And then throughout the day, it'll remind me like 20 minutes, her nap time's coming up. And I'll go, oh, it's time for her nap. Technology is my friend, like totally my friend all the time. But beyond that, when she does go down for a nap is when I really try to focus on getting like computer work done because like I had mentioned in my story yesterday, I case manage. That's like my only job is to case manage. So I have all these students that I case manage for. And as as a previous educator, like especially in special ed, it's a lot of case managing. You're managing like meetings and signatures and documents and sending them out and receiving emails and all of these things. And so when I don't have her awake, that's kind of when I do that concentrated work. When I do have her awake and I have things to do, I will typically either put her in the front room and have her play with her toys. We have a Ring camera in the front room, so I'll set that up and I have a little iPad that I watch on my desk while she's playing in the front room. And we're fortunate in that our house is like small and cozy, and so it's literally just like a 2 minute, if even that 30-second walk to get her. Make sure the gate is up, make sure she has enough toys, make sure she's changed bed, and I just keep an eye on her while I'm working. So that's one way that when she's awake and she's playing independently, I'll do that. In our office, I have a little space where I have the TV and I'll have her watch Miss Rachel. That's
Miss
nice to
Rachel,
keep it
she's
distracted.
awesome.
Miss Rachel. Yeah, Miss Rachel, our friend. Trying to keep her busy and occupied. It's hard. I don't know. I think the other thing I often tell myself too is like it's just for now, it's not forever. Like, I think that mindset is really helpful as a new mom because it's so easy to feel super overwhelmed. But then the reality that like they're only going to be this little for so long, is really nice. Like, okay, this is just for now and I got to soak it up because it's not forever. I know we've
Yeah.
talked about that before and you've, like, yeah, like it's just he's so little and he may not always give me snuggles and it's so true. Like she may not always want to, hang out with me and be in the same room as me and things. So I'm enjoying it while
Yeah.
I can.
Well, and you also made a really good point about the fact that, like, they don't always need us to keep them
Mm-mm.
entertained. Like,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
most silly things keeps them entertained. Like, I have
Uh-huh.
2 boxer dogs, and he loves to just
Yeah.
pet them. I mean, he can stare at them for
Mhm.
hours and be totally content. Or,
Yeah.
for him, it's finding what he knows he is supposed to stay away from, or I
Mm.
always take away, like, shoes, my slippers.
Yeah.
"No, you can't have my
No,
slippers," or "No, you
you
can't
can't
have
chew
my
on those.
coffee."
Yeah, that's totally, yeah.
And that keeps him so stimulated and makes him kinda work towards being able to access that item that he knows he
Hmm.
can't have.
Yeah, I think the big part is like you said, keeping things away from him that, something that they can play with, having a designated space that like is safe for her, is, accessible to things that she's interested in, and basically like will occupy her and stimulate her own thinking is probably one of the biggest things because babies don't need to be entertained as much as we think they do. And I really think there's a lot of value to that. Like, I don't want her to be in need of my constant attention and stimulated with like toys that have light ups and sounds and things like that. So we do a lot of the like Montessori Waldorf based toys because I want her to follow her creativity and try her best to like entertain herself while also growing her skills. So I think that really helps a lot is that from the very beginning, we really aimed to do a lot of Montessori based toys. None of her standard toys had like the music to them or things like that. It's like super limited what we have. And I think that's kind of helped her learn that she can just bang something together and that's a piece of entertainment, So she's really good at entertaining herself.
And I do like the fact that, like, we're also very minimalist when it comes to his
Mm.
toys. I feel like he has a lot of toys, but he really doesn't have a ton. And I
Mhm.
try to get the toys that are going to be right for his age range, like stacking or things that go in
Yeah.
and out, so
Yeah.
that he's starting to get that exposure, but
Yeah.
he doesn't even use them the way that they're supposed to be used. I mean, we have these
Yeah.
little, like, stacking cups, and he loves to put one stacking cup in his mouth. It fits
Uh-huh.
perfectly in his mouth, and it's silicone, and it looks so funny because he looks like he's got clown lips whenever he puts this in.
It's cute. Yeah. It entertains him. He's learning. He's feeling
Yeah.
textures.
It keeps him
Yeah.
entertained, and that's exactly what I
Yeah.
need.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, just a lot of like figuring out safe spaces and allowing them to, explore on their own and knowing that she doesn't need me every moment of every day. But still being within close proximity because I think like a lot of the times, even as a previous teacher, my mindset was always my job is to keep you safe. And that's my main priority is like she's safe, she's content, she's happy, she's fed, she's changed. Now I'm gonna focus on my work.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, even like we were talking, a minute ago, is you're like, he's rolling around in his bed, it's like, it's okay for him to kind of get to a place of adjustment, and like, it's okay to not constantly be there at every moment, is kind of what I've come to terms with. Because I think that a lot of where that comes from is like the educational background of being a teacher. As you're kind of like, nope, you can do it, you got it. I think we're both similar in that sense of like learning to have kids be independent and do things by themselves and become self sufficient and contributing members of society. So
Yeah.
like
Well,
it
and
transfers over to like our momhood.
exactly, and, like, if you react to every little thing, like, "Oh, he's crying, I need to go and get in
Yeah.
there right away and make sure that he doesn't cry,"
Yeah.
then all I'm doing is teaching him that all he has to do is scream, and here comes
Mhm.
mom
Yeah.
rescuing me from the crib.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I think getting comfortable with that too, because I don't know that everybody has that innately in them. I think that us and our background is just easy to feel that like it's okay, they'll be okay, but not everybody
Yeah.
has that.
When he was a lot younger and I would hear him cry, it hurt me. Like, I don't know, I
Mhm.
can't just let him cry.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a little bit of a learning
At times.
progress for me. Like,
Mhm.
I need to be okay with letting him realize, like, it's time to go to bed and you're going to learn
Mhm.
to self soothe. And if that means that
Mhm.
you need to cry for 5 minutes, then
Yeah.
you're going to cry for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. And I
okay.
mean, there's still moments where, like, even last night, she was upset about something and she was starting to fall asleep. And I looked at Chris and I was like, should I go get her? And he's like, I think she'll be okay. And sure enough, like literally a minute later, she's knocked out. I was like, okay, she was just starting to fall asleep.
So I wanted to know
Yeah.
a little bit more about your small business. Tell us a little bit about your business and then how many hours on average do you think you're spending right now doing that? Because you do full time with your case management. You do literally full time with your parenting.
Yeah, uh-huh. So my business is called HiHoney. It's a charcuterie business, a small business again that was born out of the pandemic, when everybody was like home and couldn't do anything. It was just like a nice, oh, this sounds fun to do. And then slowly people were like, I feel like you can make this a business. And so when I first started, I feel like I was giving a lot more time and energy to it because I spent a lot of time really building the like foundation of it. My fiance is a business person, and so he really just told me like you really need to lay the foundation for it, like start up your brand, get your systems in place, like decide how things work, what your the financial aspect of it, all these things, get them in place. And I think again, who I am as a person is very routine, very systematic, very like organized and consistent, I guess is the best word for it. And so I got in place my booking system. I started my website, I set out all my social media. I did my branding all from the get-go. Like I spent a lot of time doing that. As time went on, it's actually 2 years this month that it's been active.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. I was really, really busy that first year. And then I was busy for about a solid year. And within the last year or so, it just kind of slowed down mainly because I was pregnant. And then when I realized I had to really, really slow down, I was about 7 months pregnant and I was doing a charcuterie class and I was on my feet for like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 hours at like 7 months pregnant. And I was so tired. I just remember thinking like, okay, I got to cut back somewhere because I'm really exhausted. I was still teaching in the classroom at that point. And after work, went to do the charcuterie class. So I'd been up for a long time. And I was just kind of like, I needed to just scale it back a little bit and decide what was going to be, my priority. And at that time, I was being pregnant and being healthy. So from that point forward, I just kind of scaled it back and stopped doing as much like advertising for it and as much like time and energy into just putting out, sales or deals or like really keeping up on my social media essentially. And since then, I give maybe about 5 to 6 hours a week total. And it's been super consistent. I've had a consistent contract the whole 2 years with a winery, which has been really nice. So that's been every week. So every week I have a set of orders for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then beyond that, like even though I haven't done really any advertising between Google and Yelp and Instagram and sometimes Facebook, there'll be people who just reach out and say, hey, this is what I need. And so because they put it in through the order form, I don't necessarily like know these people. I'll just get order requests and, I'll receive it. I'll see it. I have an automated system that responds to it and says, hey, we'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. And then once I have the chance, I'll sit down and either I'll do it on my computer in the evening when the baby's asleep, or I'll do it from my phone, create the invoice, send it out, they do the payment, and then I have the order. And so then this is the part where the technology comes into place because a lot of the times, I'll be making lunch or, prepping a bottle for the baby and I'll think, oh, I have orders this weekend. So I'll go, hey, robot assistant I have in my home, can you write down, that I need to buy grapes, I need to buy this cheese, I need to go to Costco, I need to go here. And then I have it all out of my brain and on something physical that I can go to. And I think it allows like my brain space to be more available essentially. So I basically just use every single technological resource I have between Miss Rachel, the iPad, the Ring camera, the Alexa, it's like, those are my supports.
Well, and if you have them, why not use them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I definitely also use technology a lot. Like just, here I've been just staring at him,
Yeah.
be a little dramatic, like he'll calm
Yeah.
down.
So I think that's a big part of it is just like it's about 5 to 6 hours a week and concentrated work is typically so like I set aside in my calendar, again, I have listed, for my weekly orders that come out every Thursday evening, I'll say Thursday evening is my time to focus on this and I set it apart. And so my fiance is great in that he knows, like every week this is a consistent thing I have. And so I'll say like, hey, this evening I really need your help, with this, that, or the other. I'm going to be focusing on the orders. And so he's able to like step in and do whatever it is, that we typically do with baby at nighttime. That takes me maybe 2 to 3 hours. But again, because it's such a consistent routine, it's not as time consuming, I think, as it once was. The other thing that I also utilize a lot of is Instacart. There was a point in which I was still teaching in the classroom. I would make my list, and then as soon as I got off of work, I would run straight to Costco or, whatever. I would do all my shopping. I would come home, I would have to unload it, and then I'd have to start on my orders, and then I'd have to, figure out delivery, all of those things. And then at some point, I just decided, you know what, this is going to be part of my business. I'm going to use Instacart as my primary, grocery retrieval, because getting out the door, getting all the groceries I needed, getting it all done, like washed, sorted out, put together, was so time consuming. So it was one of those pieces of like, this is how I'm going to outsource this to still be able to accomplish the things I need. A lot of drive up, a lot of Instacart, a lot of like support, and these resources that we can have access to. I mean, I know that it gets kind of pricey, like when you're talking, I don't know if you've ever used Instacart, but like Instacart, everything's marked up for the most part. One of it's part of business. So it's like, I count for that in the business. If it's anything that I need just for our home, I'll usually do like a Target drive up order. So that's why it's only 5 to 6 hours a week, because I don't have to go to the grocery store. I literally will do it while she's starting to fall asleep. There's literally been mornings at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and if she wakes up, that I'll pull my phone out and go, I need to order from Costco, and I'll pull my Instacart order up, the app, and order, and then by 11 o'clock it's here at my front door. Those are things that I utilize also, but it is time consuming to like think of going out to the store and do those kinds of things. So a lot of
it is. It's so time
accessing that.
consuming.
Yeah, I know. I saw that you
love,
went to Trader Joe's, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 17 minutes, that's so fast.
but then again, I'm very fortunate that I was able to go on, what was it, a Wednesday at like
Yeah.
noon
Yeah.
when no one is
You
there.
just go in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. I have my list and I have like a route.
Mhm.
So, I know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
grabbing, where it's at, but
I
I
know.
love
And I have a
Target Drive
friend.
Up.
Oh, that's like my best friend. Seriously, Target Drive Up is the best thing ever. Like Target rules all right now. It's like such a convenient feature to just like
It's
drive
so
up and
convenient.
get my order and go. So convenient.
Within 2 hours. I love that it's
Yeah.
not like, there's other
I
stores
know.
where I've like ordered from Ralph's and it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
can't pick up until tomorrow. I'm like, but I need it
Yeah.
now. I don't need it
I
tomorrow.
need it now. I know. That's me too. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of how the small business goes. It's been great. Like the holidays are coming up, so I'm probably going to be ramping it up again, and just kind of, now that I'm not pregnant, thankfully, and I'm able to be on my feet. Holiday orders, those are typically the busiest times of year, just because people like to do, celebrate and not have to, where they outsource things like
Yeah.
I do, my grocery shopping. Yeah, it's a crazy time, but honestly, I think even in just having this conversation with you, like I feel like the realization I come to is that I just lean into all the support that I can get. Leaning into like my mother-in-law, she's a huge help. Like I don't even know that I'd be able to do it without her. That's a big piece of being able to get stuff done. Is finding a system of support of people who are willing to like help and accepting it. And I think the other thing is my type A, when I first got pregnant, was really worried that people weren't going to do things the way I wanted them to do it, that it wasn't right. I mean, you're laughing because I think you know what I'm talking about exactly. Like,
Yes.
I was really, really worried about that, like, oh my gosh, what if, and like my therapist once told me, I was talking to her about my fiance and him putting dishes away and like how he doesn't do it the right way, and her response was very like, okay, so what? And it like stunned me, where I was like, well, they're like not in the right spot. And she's like, okay, so what?
And I can't
like,
find it. I can't find
I
the
didn't
things I
really,
need.
yeah, but I really didn't have an answer, like, and that realization of like, if there are people that are willing to help you, even if they don't do it like you want to a T, what's the, the alternative? Either I'm stressed out and overwhelmed because I have this pile of dishes and towels to put away, or they're put away, albeit incorrectly, they're put away, like it's a help, it's like learning to just accept the help and let things be, because I think I was really worried about that. And my house is nowhere near what it was before the baby, like at all. There's no way that I can keep up the same way that I used to. Like, you see this guest room right here. This was actually a guest room that was well put together. Not anymore. Learning to let go of things that I think weren't as important as I thought they were. I am one that like I think we both kind of believe like your space is a big piece of your like internal energy. Like if you feel like a mess outside, you're probably a mess on the inside type thing. But I learned like, okay, if I can make my bed, if I can put the dishes away, if the kids' toys can be stacked away where they need to be, and for the most part, everything looks fairly clean, we're good, you know? I think that was the big thing for me is just like learning to let go a little bit, like no white knuckle grip. Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better at it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
struggle with that too.
yeah,
Like I was always the
it's
person
hard.
that as soon as I got up, my bed had to be made. I don't think I've made my bed this week, but
Yeah,
I have done laundry and I've swept.
yeah,
So
yeah.
after, I'm learning to accept the
Uh-huh.
fact that I have to be able to do one or the other, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
have this spotless home
Hmm.
other than when the cleaners come. And
Yeah.
it's great because
Uh-huh.
it lasts for like a couple hours.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, the other thing, just for now, not forever. Like I
I
think that
like
like
that.
eventually, the kids will be grown up and they'll one be able to care for their own areas, have their own chores, do their own things, but also there'll probably be a time in life where our houses are spotless again and we're like, oh my gosh, remember what I take for like a pile of laundry on the bed, just to have my baby back again. So I think like eventually that comes, you know,
Yeah,
but
because I do
just
think
for
about
now,
like
not forever. Yeah.
I'm not as sleep deprived as I was when he was a newborn,
Yeah.
but I do miss like that just being able to hold him and cuddle him and
Cuddle. Yeah.
yes, like
Is he not as cuddly as
he's
mine
not
is? Mine is not. Okay, yeah.
he's not as cuddly anymore. So other than when he was sick, which
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's a
Uh-huh.
bummer that he doesn't feel good, but
But
I get
he's letting me cuddle
cuddles.
him. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that completely. I think just letting go a little bit. That's like it, is just letting go a little bit of the control and
And accepting the help.
a huge, yeah, huge, huge thing. That's a big, big part of it. And like I know that not everybody has the like same support, but one thing that I feel like somebody told me before I had the baby was like if somebody comes over and says like, "Hey, what can you help with?" Like you can say, "Do you mind, like putting away these dishes?" Like it seems silly, but like I think about it from my perspective and I'm very much like a helping type of person. Like I want to serve people. I want to be there to help them and do things. If you're moving out, I'll be like, "I'll be there to help you move out," or, "I'll help you do this." So I think like in my own mind, getting over the fact that when people offered help, they really meant it. It wasn't just like something people said. It's like accepting it and knowing that like everybody's in it together, everybody needs help, everybody is there for each other. And if somebody is offering it, then take it.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
that's like a big thing. I laughed though, you said a minute ago about like the bed thing, about making your bed. The other day, it was a weekend and Chris woke up and I typically will make the bed in the morning and he didn't make the bed when he woke up because he woke up after me. And I was like, "Hey, I have a question for you." And he's like, "What is it?" And I was like, "If I don't make the bed, does it bother you?" And he said, "No, not at all." And I said, "Really?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "So when I make the bed, like, does it mean anything?" He's like, "It's nice." He's like, "But I don't feel bothered by it." And I was like, "That's so interesting," because I think that like it's easy for me to think of everybody thinking through my lens. And I would put the pressure on myself, like, I have to make the bed because Chris is going to get home and he's probably going to feel the same way I feel. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so messy. But to him, it didn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if the bed's made. Sure, it feels nice, to come into a room with a bed that's made. But if it's between making the bed and feeding Mila to not be late to a meeting at work, feeding Mila should take the priority because he doesn't actually care. And so I think that conversation was super telling because I'm like, oh, wow, he doesn't actually care in the same way I do. Like I hold priority to so many things that to him probably like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. So
I
like,
think that's also that you're type A coming through, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And if
yeah.
it
It's just
bothers you,
interesting.
it doesn't always bother them. Like learning
Yeah.
that just because it irritates me, they might not even
They didn't
notice it.
even notice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's another thing that's really funny. It's just like the idea that everybody functions so differently.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of those realizations like, oh, we're all different.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to learn off of somebody else,
Mhm.
like what works for them, what doesn't
Mhm.
work. And maybe
Mhm.
something that didn't work ends up working for
Mhm.
you. I feel like I'm in that process of trial and error right now with Luciano with the teething. Yeah. I
Mhm.
think he's getting
I
all
know.
four of his top teeth in. So it's
Oof.
pretty painful for all of us.
Yeah. I know, and that's another thing. Like I recently had a friend who I had mentioned that Mila was teething, and she told me that they use this like natural teething gel, and I was like, never would have thought of that. I don't know why I didn't think about that. So same day, Target order, drive up, and it helped a ton. Just like little things like that, where it's like just having conversations with people, and you're like, oh yeah, light bulb moment. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
And I think that's what's so helpful about talking to other new moms that are going through the
yeah,
similar stages. And even if they're just a couple months apart, because they are in
mhm,
such different stages, like
mhm,
they teeth at different times, they start crawling at different times.
mhm,
So,
yeah,
and I like that you like
everything,
mentioned the gate, and I keep thinking about how I need to get a gate because he's been
yeah,
rolling around more. And today I was like, okay, you know what? I need to just let him explore.
yeah,
I just like sat him down in the kitchen floor and let him just like
mhm,
watch me as I got my lunch together. I'm like, I can't keep holding him, but he clearly
yeah,
wants to keep an eye on me. So we'll go with.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much. I love all of these
yeah,
realizations, like using all of your resources. And when somebody
yeah,
offers help, like be direct and tell them what they can
mhm,
help you with.
mhm,
You know,
yeah,
like
super
go
helpful.
letting go of these expectations that we set on ourselves and communicating with your partner about what
Mhm,
doesn't work or what bothers them so you can have that
yeah,
understanding of like, okay, maybe I don't need to make
mhm.
the bed every day.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And then the just for now, not forever,
yes,
Just for
yes,
now, it's not forever. I feel like
enjoy.
that also got me through grad school because I was so like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much to do." It's like it's just for now, not forever. And now I'm like, I want to go back to grad school where the stress is just about assignments and nothing more.
When he
you
was
know.
when Luciano was waking up a lot more regularly in the middle of the
Uh-huh.
night, I would just tell myself like, it's okay. I'm gonna miss holding him. I'm gonna miss holding him
Mhm.
as just kind of a way to get through it and
Mhm.
the sleep deprivation. And now he
Yep.
wants to be so independent, but
Yeah.
we do have to
Come
have those
back
little
to me.
mantras.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so helpful and just kind of I feel like
Mhm.
keeps you sane and makes you
Sane.
realize like
I know.
it's
I
just
know.
a temporary situation that
Yep.
I'm going to miss.
Mhm. Yeah, that's for sure.
So,
I know, I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
well, thank you again so much.
Yeah, you're
I
so
appreciate
welcome.
everything that
Yeah.
you just shared with us, and I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone else will too. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.